And welcome back to the NFL Quick Talk podcast. As always, you can find the show on YouTube and Spotify. Subscribe and follow. And we're going to be doing this reaction Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, whenever you're watching this. A little bit differently than we have in the past. We're going to take the top 5 games and give an in-depth breakdown all in under 15 minutes. So let's get right into it. In the number 5 ranked game, the Jaguars manhandled the Colts 37-20. The Jaguars improved to 4-2, and the Colts dropped to 3-3. And I have 3 takeaways from this game. The first one is that Gardner Minshew, Colts quarterback, is just a backup. He is not anything more. He is not anything less. He is just an NFL backup. He is not anywhere near as dynamic, both as a runner and a passer of the football, than Anthony Richardson is, the normal starter, who they drafted 4th overall, who is now out for the rest of the season. Wish him a speedy recovery. And they need Gardner Minshew to play a lot better. They needed him to play on a different level in order to maintain the level of success that they need to in order to do stuff like make the playoffs, win the division. And winning this division isn't too hard if you can get to the Jaguars, but if you play like that, where the Jaguars were leading 31-10 going into the 4th quarter, just off the top of my head, they need to play a lot better than that, and they need Gardner Minshew to play a lot better on a different stratosphere. And my second point is that Travis Etienne is now an elite running back. His growth has been phenomenal from, getting injured in his first year, now his 3rd year in the league, and he has done phenomenal. And in this game, he scored 2 touchdowns rushing. He's a touchdown machine. He also ranks in the top 10 in both receiving yards from scrimmage and touchdowns. And my third point is that the Jaguars look great on D, which they need to be. They only gave up 10 points after the 3rd quarter, and, the Colts scored 10 in garbage time. The 3 interceptions and 3 sacks helped put the offense in the best position possible, gave the offense a ton of short fields, and forced punts, on those sacks. And my outtake for this game, I got one for each team, focusing on just the NFL as a whole as it pertains to this team. The Jaguars are now fully in first place and just in time because their schedule does not get any easier from here. They play a ton of really good teams at kind of as a default from finishing very high up last year. And, for the Colts, nothing is out of the picture just yet. The season is just early enough, and they have won enough to start out the season that they're not irrelevant at this point. They're still 3-3. The Bengals are 3-3, so they're right there with them. And the division still is not out of the question, but again, they need everyone to play much better than they have in this game. Coming in at number 4, the Commanders beat the Falcons in Atlanta 24-16. The Commanders improved to 3-3, and the Falcons fall to 3-3. 3 takeaways from this game. Number 1, Desmond Ridder is not the future of the Atlanta Falcons. His 3 interceptions cost the Falcons the game, one of them in the end zone. And, they were not great interceptions, not very good reads at all. He doesn't have that great of an arm strength to begin with. I think that's been well established already. But on top of that, his decision-making leaves a lot to be desired. And, it's not the worst by any means, but it certainly isn't the best, and it's really far from it. And you could say the same thing about Mac Jones now. I won't get into him, not yet. My second point here, on the flip side, is that Sam Howell is the future for the Washington Commanders. He protects the ball, which is what young quarterbacks struggle to do, and we have seen that time and time again. Even, Desmond Ridder, case in point, 3 interceptions cost them the game. Sam Howell just protects the ball. He doesn't throw interceptions, and, it's really a good quality to have as a quarterback. And he plays a great game manager game. He plays exactly the way the Commanders need him to play. The Commanders have weapons, and if they can utilize them right, then I think that the Commanders can go in a lot of good places. And my third point here is that the Falcons need to get Bijan Robinson going. They drafted him 8th overall for a reason. Highest running back has been drafted since Saquon Barkley, and Saquon Barkley, when he's healthy, basically took the Giants on their back to the playoffs last year. And Bijan Robinson can be that guy. They just need to get him going. He had 13 carries, which is, they need to get him up to the 20s range, but still, it's enough carries. And he only had 37 yards from scrimmage, and that ain't going to do it. And so they need to get him going. And my outtakes for this game, this win puts the Commanders back into the wild card picture. They had a couple embarrassing losses to the Bills, and they had some close losses to teams like the Eagles, but now they actually get a solid win here versus the Falcons, and that puts them right back in the playoff picture because they look more of a wild card team, and beating the Falcons here is huge as well. But neither team really looks good enough to challenge for the division lead. The Falcons have the Saints and the Bucks, who both look way better than they do, and they will probably beat the Falcons. And the Cowboys and Eagles look a lot better than the Commanders do. So some things to keep an eye on there. Cracking the top three, the Bengals take care of business at home versus a powerful Seattle Seahawks team, 17-13. The Bengals improve to 3-3, and the Seahawks fall to 3-2. And my three takeaways. The first takeaway is that the Seahawks red zone efficiency was terrible in this game. All capital letters. 4 to 5 times they could have taken points in field goals, and they would have easily beaten the Bengals. But they decided to go for it on fourth or mismanaged the clock, and they could not just get that ball into the end zone when they wanted to. Second point, the Bengals defense played excellent ball. 4 sacks and 2 interceptions. The interceptions by Mike Hilton and the pick six by Cam Taylor-Britt really carried the Bengals to this win. The offense did not play very well, thanks in part to a very good Seattle defense. But still, the offense just wasn't doing it for the Bengals. So their D had to step up to win this game, and they did just that, scoring a touchdown in the process. And yes, they still have a lot of work to do. They're not the best defense out there. They're not even a top 5. Maybe they're a top 10, but it's fringe at best. So, because they gave up 400 yards of total offense to the Seahawks, and they just aren't the best a defense, in general. But they took a major step in the right direction with these plays made by some up-and-coming young players. My third point is that the Seahawks need to run the ball more, period. They have 2 absolute dogs at running back with Kenneth Walker III and Zach Charbonnet, who they got from the draft, who's a very good running back, and they don't use near enough they should. And they got all their yards. They had 300 some yards passing, and they had closer to 50 yards rushing total. It needs to be more of a balanced attack in order so that you can get 4th and shorts, 3rd and shorts, instead of 3rd and long, 4th and long. And it's much more manageable, and you can open up the playbook more. So my outtakes for this game. The Bengals division crown hopes are not out of the question with this win. This was going to be a very tough game to win, and they still have a killer schedule left. And they have to play a lot of AFC North teams. They still have to play the Steelers twice, the Ravens, and the Browns, So that's 4 division games left. You have to win at least 2 of those, you would imagine. And they need to win 3 of those games to really cement themselves. And they need to get a couple upsets as well. But it's not out of the question. And the way their defense played, they can still do it. And on the Seahawks side, they are definitely not better than the 49ers. That showed today. But they're going to put themselves in a great wild card place. They're probably going to be the first wild card, I would assume. Number 2 ranked game of the week. The New York Jets at home stun the unbeaten Philadelphia Eagles 20-14. The Jets improve to 3-3, and the Eagles fall to 5-1. And takeaways from this game. Jalen Hurts' 3 interceptions were unacceptable for a player of his caliber, and of the amount of weapons that he has on the outside with A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith, among others. He really should not have – he shouldn't be throwing these interceptions. And if you look at them on tape, they are not good reads. They are not good throws. And he didn't even put his players in a good position to get these balls. And it's really inexcusable for a player of his caliber. One or two, you're having an off game, but three, it's really going out of hand there. So he needs to rein that in a little bit, work on that in practice. But he's still a very dynamic QB, and I have full confidence that he'll be able to overcome this. And my second point is that A.J. Brown is an elite wide receiver. It's time that everyone acknowledges this if they haven't already. He was the only offense for the Eagles with 131 receiving yards all day for the Eagles. And he has still been the only skill position player to really break out for the Eagles this season. They haven't really got Devonta Smith going. They haven't really got any of their running backs going. I know DeAndre Swift has had a couple good games that he hasn't really broken out. And my third point is that the Jets defense is carrying them right now. It's carrying the whole load, and they're very well coached. That is very apparent. And they have elite players all over the field. And you even saw in that game, without their best player on defense, their best player, period, in Sauce Gardner, out. And they were still able to pick off the quarterback 3 times. My outtakes for this game: this was just a total misnomer for the Eagles. It wasn't them, and I fully expect them to get back to playing as a great team again, and they'll find themselves in the championship game unless something goes terribly wrong. The Jets defense will carry them to a possible wild card berth. I say possible because it is, as always, possible for more injuries to occur and, the mid-season wear and tear to set forth. And the number one game that happened this weekend, the 49ers were stunned by the Browns in Cleveland, 19-17. The Browns improved to 3-2, and the 49ers fall to 5-1. My 3 takeaways. Number 1, the 49ers' injuries to key players contributed mightily to their downfall in this game. Deebo Samuel, a vital piece to their offense, was hurt very early on in the game. I think it was even on the first drive, and could not come back. And he is a pivotal part of their offense. Even when they don't use him, he takes up so much space. They have people assigned to him, and he really brings a lot to the offense, even when he's not getting the ball, because people are shadowing him. They know how great of a player, how dynamic of a player. He can be a running back, he can be a wing back, he can be a wide receiver, he can be, the center. He could do anything. And, he's such a vital piece. And the best running back in the game, Christian McCaffrey, injured at the end of the third quarter. He was banging off big runs. That was basically the whole offense, but still. And they lost him, and they would have won hands down, even if it wouldn't have come to a 41-yard field goal attempt if he was in the game the whole time, and if Deebo Samuel would have been able to contribute. Second point, the Browns defense is playing on a top 5 level. Of course, the key injuries to the 49ers helped them, but nonetheless, all season long, they have been playing great football. They have been holding up great on the back end, and what's been helping them on the back end is that in the front 7, especially that defensive line, they have been pursuing the quarterback greatly. They have been manhandling offensive lines. They have been all over the field. They're very athletic, very fast, and they're not letting it get to the second level, which makes the secondary's job a lot easier. And in this game, they were able to rattle Brock Purdy just enough to force a ton of bad throws and a ton of bad decisions. And I guess that's the way to beat Brock Purdy. Just, send the house to him and just, make sure that he doesn't get good throws off and makes him panic a little bit. Third point, turns out benching DTR, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, who started the Ravens game, for PJ Walker actually turned out better. Dorian Thompson-Robinson may be a more dynamic player and a younger player, but he still lacks the experience that PJ Walker does. And PJ Walker also resembles their starter, who they modeled the whole offense around, in Deshaun Watson. They have very similar styles. They're both pocket passers. They're both not very mobile. They're both not very consistent. But that's beside the point. And outtakes for this game, still no worries for the 49ers. They're still set to go to the championship game with the Eagles, buying that the Lions don't crash the party. And the Browns made a statement, but they seem to always peak early, then fall late. I can't see them changing that mantra since nothing has changed there. But overall, a great win for the Browns.